My child, stop scrolling for just a moment. Do not let your attention wander, because what you are about to hear was meant to find you at exactly the right time. There is a reason these words crossed your path today. There is a reason your heart feels strangely curious. And there is a reason you cannot explain why something inside you keeps whispering, keep listening. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. There is a story unfolding that very few people know. It is quiet. It is hidden behind ordinary conversations, ordinary smiles, and ordinary days. Yet beneath the surface, something remarkable has been taking shape. Someone may have been talking about you. Not in the way you fear. Not in the way your imagination has sometimes convinced you. This story is far deeper than that. It carries emotions that have remained unspoken for longer than anyone realizes. And before this message ends, you will understand why today feels different from every day that came before. Imagine someone sitting alone after everyone else has gone home. The room is silent except for the sound of their own thoughts. They replay moments they believed were forgotten. They remember conversations that seemed small at the time. They remember your kindness. They remember your strength. They even remember the moments when you thought nobody noticed you. Every memory has become part of a much larger picture. Don't skip. Because the next part of this story changes everything. At first, they refused to speak about you. They convinced themselves there was no reason to bring up your name. They buried every thought beneath busy schedules, responsibilities, and distractions. But the more they tried to move on, the louder your memory became. Every familiar place reminded them of something connected to you. Every unexpected coincidence seemed impossible to ignore. Then something happened. A simple conversation began. Nothing dramatic. Nothing anyone would have expected to become important. Yet within minutes, your name entered the discussion naturally, almost as if it had been waiting for the perfect opportunity. The atmosphere shifted immediately. The people listening became curious. Questions appeared. Stories started connecting in ways nobody had imagined before. Something huge is waiting for you. Stay till the end. The person speaking about you did not begin with grand statements. Instead, they spoke about small moments. They described your patience. They remembered the encouragement you once gave without expecting anything in return. They recalled how your presence had quietly changed situations that once felt impossible. The more they talked, the more everyone around them realized there was far more to your story than they had ever understood. That was only the beginning. One listener suddenly interrupted. Wait. There was a long silence. Are we talking about the same person? The room became completely still. What followed next surprised everyone present. One by one, people began sharing their own memories of you. None of them had planned to speak. None of them expected the conversation to continue. Yet every new voice revealed another forgotten moment. Every new memory painted another piece of a picture that had remained incomplete for far too long. Don't skip. Because this is where the story becomes impossible to ignore. Someone remembered seeing you help another person without asking for recognition. Someone else remembered the calm you carried during difficult moments. Another remembered how your words had given them hope during one of the hardest seasons of their life. Piece after piece, the image became clearer. They realized they had all experienced a different side of you, yet every experience pointed toward the same truth. You had left a lasting impression. Not because you demanded attention. Not because you tried to prove yourself. But because the quiet things you did continued echoing long after the moment had passed. Sometimes people never know the impact they have until someone else tells the story. Today, that story began being told. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. As the conversation continued, another unexpected realization appeared. One person admitted they had misunderstood you in the past. Another confessed they had judged you too quickly. Someone else quietly said they wished they had spoken to you more often instead of believing assumptions. No arguments followed. No blame filled the room. Only reflection. Only honesty. Only the realization that people often discover someone's true value much later than they should. There was something deeply emotional about that moment. Because the discussion was no longer about rumors. It was about recognition. Recognition that had arrived quietly. Recognition that had arrived naturally. Recognition that nobody could force. And while everyone shared their memories, one individual remained completely silent. They listened to every word. Their expression changed little by little. Inside their heart, emotions they had hidden for a very long time finally began surfacing. They realized something they had never admitted aloud. You had become far more important than they ever allowed themselves to believe. Don't skip. The next part reveals why that realization mattered. Hours later, after everyone had gone their separate ways, the conversation still refused to leave their mind. Every sentence echoed. Every memory replayed itself. Every compliment about you felt genuine. They kept asking themselves one question. What if I never truly understood who they are? That single question changed everything. For the first time in a long time, they stopped looking at appearances. They stopped listening to assumptions. They stopped focusing on temporary impressions. Instead, they began remembering moments only they had experienced with you. Moments when your sincerity could not be questioned. Moments when your patience stood out. Moments when your quiet courage became impossible to overlook. Suddenly, they understood why hearing your name affected them so deeply. Because your story had never truly ended inside their heart. It had simply been waiting. Waiting for the right conversation. Waiting for the right reminder. Waiting for the right moment. And perhaps today became that moment. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Many people spend years believing their quiet efforts disappear unnoticed. Many believe kindness fades. Many believe sincerity is forgotten. But hidden stories often travel farther than anyone realizes. Words spoken with honesty continue moving long after the conversation ends. Acts of compassion continue living inside the memories of those who witnessed them. The smallest moment can become someone's greatest reminder years later. That is exactly what happened here. Your story did not vanish. It quietly continued through people you never expected. Through conversations you never heard. Through memories you never knew existed. And as those memories connected one after another, something extraordinary began forming. Not by accident. Not by force. But naturally. Slowly. Powerfully. Don't skip. Because what happens next will make every earlier moment meaningful. Tonight, someone will once again think about that conversation. Tomorrow, another unexpected reminder may appear. Soon, another piece of the story may come into place. And when it does, everything that once seemed disconnected will finally begin making sense. The remarkable thing is not that people talked. The remarkable thing is why your name remained unforgettable after so much time. Some names disappear. Some memories fade. Some stories quietly end. But others continue growing long after nobody expects them to. This may be one of those stories. So remain patient. Remain hopeful. Remain ready. Because not every chapter announces itself before it begins. Sometimes the greatest turning points arrive disguised as ordinary conversations. Sometimes the biggest changes begin with someone simply saying, "Do you remember them?" And from that single question, an unforgettable story begins. The silence did not end when the conversation was over. In many ways, that was the moment everything truly began. Listen carefully, because this part of the story is something very few people ever get to witness. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Hours passed, yet your name continued to echo in someone's thoughts. They tried to focus on ordinary tasks, but every attempt brought them back to the same unforgettable question. Why does thinking about this person feel so different today? It was not curiosity anymore. It was something much deeper. It was as though every memory they had pushed aside suddenly stood before them, asking to be seen one more time. What happened next was completely unexpected. Someone who had heard your story decided to look back at old conversations. They searched through forgotten moments, small details, and simple memories they had almost erased from their mind. At first, they believed they would find nothing unusual. Instead, every memory revealed something they had completely overlooked before. They realized that the person they had been discussing was never ordinary. They realized your kindness had been consistent. Your patience had been genuine. Your presence had quietly changed people in ways nobody recognized at the time. Don't skip. Because the next discovery changed everything. Another person entered the conversation the following day without even knowing what had happened before. They casually mentioned your name, completely unaware that everyone in the room had already been thinking about you. The moment they spoke, every face changed. It felt almost impossible that another conversation about you had started so naturally. Coincidence? Perhaps. Or perhaps some stories refuse to stay hidden forever. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. One person smiled and quietly said, "You know, I've been thinking about them too." The room became silent again. Then another voice replied, "I thought I was the only one." Suddenly, people who rarely shared personal thoughts began speaking openly. Each story was different, yet every story carried the same surprising truth. You had inspired people without realizing it. You had encouraged someone during a difficult season. You had restored confidence in someone who had almost given up. You had shown compassion when nobody else noticed someone was struggling. The remarkable part? You never asked for recognition. You simply lived with sincerity. That sincerity had quietly become unforgettable. Don't skip. The biggest moment has not arrived yet. As every memory surfaced, someone who had remained completely silent finally spoke. "I wish they knew." Those 4 words carried more emotion than anyone expected. I wish they knew how many lives they quietly touched. Nobody answered immediately. Because everyone in the room realized the same thing at exactly the same moment. People often underestimate the difference they make. They assume nobody notices. They believe small acts disappear. But they rarely do. The smallest act of kindness can remain in someone's heart for years. A single encouraging sentence can become the reason another person keeps moving forward. A genuine smile can become someone's favorite memory. That was the hidden truth nobody expected to uncover. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. As evening approached, one individual decided to take a walk alone. They weren't searching for answers. Yet answers seemed to find them anyway. Every familiar place reminded them of another forgotten memory connected to you. Every street carried another quiet reminder. Every passing moment strengthened one realization. Your story was far from over. In fact, it was only beginning. Because conversations create something powerful. One honest story reaches another person. That person remembers another experience. Then another memory appears. Then another. Until suddenly, people realize they have all been carrying different pieces of the same incredible picture. And that picture points towards someone they had underestimated. Don't skip. Because what happened next surprised even the people telling the story. Someone finally asked the question nobody had dared to ask before. What if we should tell them? Silence. Nobody responded immediately. Not because they disagreed. But because every person understood the weight of those words. What happens when someone discovers they have quietly become part of so many meaningful memories? What happens when they learn their influence reached far beyond what they ever imagined? The room filled with thoughtful expressions. No one rushed to answer. Because everyone knew some truths arrive at exactly the right moment. Never too early. Never too late. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Meanwhile, life around you continued normally. You had no idea these conversations were unfolding. You had no idea people were reflecting on moments connected to you. You had no idea your name had become the center of heartfelt discussions. Yet sometimes the most meaningful chapters of life are written long before we are invited to read them. That is what makes this story so extraordinary. The conversation was never about creating excitement. It was about discovering truth. A truth that had been quietly waiting beneath ordinary days. A truth hidden inside forgotten memories. A truth revealed one conversation at a time. Don't skip. The next chapter carries even greater meaning. Late that night, someone looked toward the sky and smiled. Not because every question had been answered, but because they finally understood something they had been missing. Some people enter our lives for only a moment. Others leave behind something that remains forever. Your story had become one of those rare stories. Not because it demanded attention, but because it quietly transformed hearts without asking for applause. And when people finally recognized that truth, everything began making sense. The conversations, the memories, the emotions, the unexpected reminders. Every piece connected perfectly. So if you have ever wondered whether your quiet moments matter, if you have ever questioned whether kindness is remembered, if you have ever believed your efforts disappeared unnoticed, remember this story. Because somewhere, someone may already be telling it. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. The greatest revelation has not been spoken yet. The most unforgettable chapter is still ahead. And when that moment finally arrives, you will understand why every conversation, every memory, and every unexpected reminder led to this extraordinary turning point. Sometimes the most extraordinary moments do not begin with a loud announcement. They begin with a single unexpected realization. Listen closely, because this is the part of the story that changes everything. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. The next morning arrived like any other. The streets were busy. People continued with their routines. Nothing appeared unusual on the surface. But behind that ordinary day, something remarkable was quietly unfolding. The people who had been talking about you could not forget the conversation. Instead of moving on, they kept returning to it. Each person remembered another detail. Another forgotten moment. Another reason your name had stayed in their heart far longer than they had realized. It became impossible to ignore. One person finally said, "There has to be a reason we keep coming back to this." Nobody laughed. Nobody dismissed the thought. Instead, everyone became thoughtful. Because deep inside, they all felt the same thing. This story was leading somewhere. Don't skip. The biggest revelation has not arrived yet. One by one, they began sharing moments they had never spoken about before. Someone remembered a day when they had almost given up hope, and a few simple words from you completely changed their perspective. Someone else remembered how you noticed people others overlooked. Another remembered how you remained calm when everyone else became overwhelmed. None of these moments seemed extraordinary when they happened. But together, they created a story that nobody could ignore anymore. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Then something unexpected happened. A person who had never met you personally entered the conversation. They had only heard your name. Nothing more. Yet after listening to everyone speak, they quietly smiled and asked, "Can one person really leave this kind of impression without even knowing it?" The room became silent. The answer did not come immediately. Because every person realized they were living proof. Sometimes influence is invisible. Sometimes kindness continues working long after the moment has passed. Sometimes a single life touches countless others without ever receiving recognition. That realization filled the room with quiet emotion. Don't skip. Because the next moment was unlike anything they expected. One individual stood up and walked toward a window. They looked outside for several moments without saying a word. Finally, they turned around and spoke. "I think we've been looking at this story the wrong way." Everyone listened. "We've been asking why people keep talking about them." Another pause. "But maybe the real question is why we almost forgot to appreciate them while we had the chance." Those words changed the atmosphere instantly. No one argued. No one interrupted. Everyone simply reflected. Sometimes the greatest discoveries are not about finding something new. Sometimes they are about finally seeing what has always been there. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Hours later, another surprising event unfolded. Someone unexpectedly crossed paths with a person who had known you years ago. Without planning it. Without even mentioning the earlier conversation. Your name came up once again. The reaction was immediate. "Oh, I remember them." Those simple words carried unexpected warmth. The conversation continued. Story after story emerged. Every memory sounded different. Yet every ending sounded remarkably similar. They always treated people with respect. They always encouraged others. They always left people feeling better. They never realized how much they meant. At that moment, everyone understood something extraordinary. Your story had traveled much farther than anyone imagined. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. As evening arrived, one final memory surfaced. It was a moment nobody else had known about. Years earlier, during a difficult season, someone had quietly received encouragement from you. You probably forgot about that conversation. You probably thought it lasted only a few minutes. But the other person never forgot. They admitted those few moments completely changed the direction of their life. Silence filled the room again. This time, nobody searched for more words. Because none were needed. Everyone finally understood. Small moments are never truly small. Simple kindness is never truly simple. Quiet encouragement is never truly forgotten. The greatest stories are often built from moments that seemed ordinary at the time. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. As night settled in, someone asked one final question. What if tea?